Hi, I'm your host Tish Tansil, and this is URBANesque Living. Saturday afternoons on Comcast TV. I have a terrific tip for grilled vegetable salad. 2:30. I look forward to cooking with you. Now it packs a lot of the Saturday afternoon at Tish Tansil for full episode. Family and your friends. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to another edition of URBANesque Living. I'm your host, Chef Tish Tansil, and today we're going old school in the kitchen. We're making delicious chocolate cupcakes from scratch. Stay tuned. Okay, now we're going to start our homemade cupcakes with the basics. And these are wonderful cupcakes to make. This is an old-fashioned recipe. What you're going to need is 1 3/4 cup flour, 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 cup of natural cocoa powder, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of whole milk, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And lastly, 1 cup of boiling hot water. Okay, so those are the ingredients that you're going to need for this recipe. I am going to be posting this recipe on my Facebook page, and that's at Facebook/Tish Tansil, and that will bring you to the URBANesque Living page. Now, the first thing we're going to do is mix together our dry ingredients. So when you mix together your flour, you should have it in a bigger bowl. So what we're going to do first is we have the flour, we have our wire whisk. I'm going to mix in our 2 cups of sugar, and we have our 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda. And make sure you get that out because baking soda and baking powder will make all the difference in your recipe. This recipe calls for equal amounts of each, so you're not going to have more baking powder than baking soda. And lastly, we have our salt. And so I'm going to mix these together, and we're going to make sure that everything is totally dispersed. Okay, and then I'm going to mix in our chocolate. And this is very important that our chocolate is mixed in with our other dry ingredients. So a wire whisk is actually best. We're not going to do this in the mixer yet because we need to add our other ingredients into our mixer. So make sure that all of our dry ingredients are totally mixed, and once everything has a nice cocoa look, you know that it's evenly dispersed. Okay, so now all of our dry ingredients are mixed together in this bowl. So the next thing that I'm going to do is mix in all of our liquid ingredients in our mixer. So I'm going to add our 1 cup of milk. This is our 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 4 ounces or 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and lastly 2 whole eggs. And we're going to mix all these together until they're light and fluffy. Okay, so now all of our liquid ingredients are thoroughly mixed together. And I'm going to put in our dry ingredients, but we're not going to beat them for an extensive period of time because we just want them to be mixed together. We don't want to create gluten with the flour. And if you mix it too long, you're going to be making chocolate bread instead of chocolate cake. So I'm just going to add this in and I'm going to let it mix for about 2 minutes. And we're going to put this in on low. One of the secrets to baking a very good cake is to make sure that you scrape down the sides of the bowl. You want to make sure that all of your ingredients are mixed well. Okay, so now our sides are scraped down and we can let this run for 1 more minute. Now the last thing that we're going to add to this delicious homemade chocolate cake mix is hot water. And we're just going to slowly pour this in. And we're just going to let this mix. Now this batter is very light, so it's not a very thick cake mix, but it's going to be light and fluffy. Okay, so I'm going to just scrape the sides down one last time, just to make sure that everything is mixed in. And make sure you get the bottom, because a lot of times you have flour that's stuck to the bottom of the bowl, and when you go to do your cake, you find that you still have some pockets of flour in there. That means that your cake may not turn out as perfectly as you want because all of the ingredients have not been mixed in. So our cake is well mixed. Not over mixed, but well mixed. So I'm gonna let this run just a second or two longer. Okay, so now our batter is ready to be scooped. Now I've already taken one of our muffin tins or cupcake tins, if you like to call them that, and lined them with paper. And so now I'm going to scoop out the batter into the muffin tins. Okay, and so that's the last of our cupcake batter. You make sure that you scrape the bottoms of the bowl because we don't want to leave any of that delicious batter behind. So now it's time to put our cupcakes in the oven on 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Okay, so our timer is set for 30 minutes. Stay tuned.
I'm done breastfeeding. I'm just gonna lay down with the baby in the bed.
Oh goodness, no, it's not safe for you to put the baby in the bed with you.
Really?
That's right. The safest place for her to sleep is alone on her back in an empty crib.
So how do you know so much?
Facebook, of course. Now, get a nap. For tips on safe infant sleep, visit ounce.org or find the Sleep Right, Sleep Tight page on Facebook.
Hi, my timer just went off, so I'm going to take a simple toothpick and test the center cupcake for doneness. I'm going to stick it in, and if it comes out dry, meaning there are no crumbs stuck to it, then our cupcakes are ready to come out of the oven. Our cupcakes are done. They're nice and beautiful. They rose high. So now I'm going to let them cool before I ice them. Chef Tish Tansil, the host of URBANesque Living. Join me on Comcast TV-68 Wednesdays at 9 o'clock p.m. and Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. I look forward to cooking with you. Hi, welcome back to URBANesque Living. And we just finished baking our delicious homemade chocolate cupcakes, and I'm letting them cool. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is make the topping, which is a delicious, scrumptious vanilla buttercream icing. And we're making this totally from scratch. So what you're going to need, 2 sticks of delicious butter. This is 4 cups of powdered sugar. We have some whole milk, and we're going to be using either 1 to 4 teaspoons, but have them ready. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And the first thing we're going to do is get this butter nice and creamy. So we're going to turn our mixer on, and we're going to let the butter whip and get nice and creamy before we add our sugar in. Now our butter is mixing, and I'm trying to let it whip. So what I'm going to do is to scrape down the sides to make sure that all of the butter is whipped. Okay, so now our butter is nice and light and fluffy. So what I'm going to do next is add our flavorings. And so we have our vanilla extract, and I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to add in our salt and let that whip in as well. Okay, so our vanilla extract and our salt is now incorporated into our butter. And so what I'm going to do next is lightly add the powdered sugar. And you don't want to just dump it in, because you're going to get powdered sugar all over your kitchen. So we're going to mix that in slowly. So what I'm going to do is turn our mixer on to the lowest speed, and I'm just going to scoop the sugar in. Okay, so I'm just going to let that mix a little bit before I add in the milk, because we don't want our icing runny. We want that pretty sculptured icing look. So I'm just going to let it mix a little bit. Our buttercream icing is beautiful. I am going to add a little bit of milk to it, not all of this, because this is actually a perfect consistency for what I want to do, which is make beautiful swirls of vanilla cream icing on top of our chocolate cupcakes. Now, depending on what you want to do with your icing is what is going to determine how thick your icing is going to be. Because I'm doing cupcakes and people love to see that beautiful swirl on top, I want my buttercream a little bit thicker. But if you're going to be icing a cake and you want the cake to be nice and smooth, and you're not really concerned about building a mountain of icing, then you could make this buttercream a bit thinner. But I think this buttercream is perfect right now for decorating our chocolate cupcakes. So I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so our buttercream is ready. Now, if you want to get those perfect pastry, gourmet looking cupcakes, what you're going to need to do is have a professional icing tip. And this is a star tip. It's a large star because we want these cupcakes to look nice and lush. And you're going to want a piping bag. And this is just a plastic piping bag. You can make your own out of parchment paper, but a lot of times it's easier just to buy a roll at your craft store. and you can easily just have a piping bag ready. You can actually also use those lunch bags and make a piping bag out of that. But what you're going to do is you're going to put your tip inside of the bag, and you're just going to take a pair of scissors and you're going to snip the end. And you're going to press it down to make sure. And if you haven't snipped enough, like in this case I haven't snipped enough, I'm going to go back and cut a little bit more off the bag. And I'm going to push down, and then you're going to see that the peaks of our tip are now sticking out of the bag. Now sometimes they do have those little funnel ends that you can just screw on, and that's important to use if you're going to be doing a cake decorating project and you need an assortment of tips. But because we're just doing one type of tip, we only need to use this one bag, and we don't need the attachment for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just put our icing in our bag, and then we're going to decorate our cupcakes. Our tip is already on, and like I said, I'm using a standard star tip. But if you want to get fancy and you know how to make those beautiful floral arrangements on top of your cupcakes, by all means, go ahead. But I'm keeping this one a little bit simple, and I'm just going to make a swirl right on top of our cupcake. And that's just a standard rosette. So I'm going to finish off the rest of our cupcakes. Hi, welcome back, and as promised, I finished decorating our cupcakes in that delicious homemade buttercream icing. But along the way I said, you know, chocolate is great too. So you know what I did? I made some chocolate buttercream icing, and I'll show you how to do that in another show. But if you want to find out the recipe for this delicious homemade chocolate buttercream cupcake, go to my Facebook page. It's at Facebook/Tish Tansil, and you can find the recipe there. You can also tweet me on Twitter. That's Tish Tansil or URBANesque Living. Either one will get you to me.
Now, come on. Come on. All right. I know. 2 seconds. Hang on. Just stand still. Stand still, love. 1 second. I know. Just I know. Okay, good. Okay, go, go, go. No. Boys, hang on, boys.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Hi, I'm Chef Tish Tansil, and welcome to another edition of URBANesque Living. Today, I'm going to show you how to do something special that will impress the guests at your next event. I'm going to show you how to make a special gift item that you can hand out as souvenirs that your guests will remember for years to come. Stay tuned.
Mom, can I have $1?
Yeah, it's right. I think my purse is upstairs on the bed.
It's not here.
Check the dining room.
No,
What about your sister's room?
it's not there either.
The upstairs closet? The downstairs closet?
There are no more closets.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Hi, welcome back to URBANesque Living. And like I said, today I'm going to show you how to make a very special gift item. Now, in the previous show, I showed you how to melt chocolate. Well, now I'm going to show you something very simple yet impressive to do for your next event. Now, the chocolate is at a perfect temperature right now. It's smooth and it's creamy and it's ready to go. Next, you're going to need a silicone mold. It doesn't have to be a mold like this one. This is a 6-compartment mold. Yours can be heart-shaped, it can be square, it can be round, it doesn't matter. whichever design you like. Now today I'm doing a traditional looking candy bar, but it's going to have a special topping, and those toppings are actually homemade toppings that they can't get anywhere else but your kitchen. You don't have to spray the silicone because silicone is a non-stick surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the chocolate off of our double boiler, and I'm actually going to dab it on our mat because it's going to have a little bit of water and condensation at the bottom, and we don't want that dripping into our chocolate because it's going to make very unsightly bubbles in it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our chocolate and we're going to pour them in equal amounts into each of our shells. And we're going to use up all of our chocolate because everyone loves a chocolate bar and we don't want to waste our chocolate. I'm going to get a little bit of that off the edges, and I'm going to set this aside because there's nothing in there. We don't need to heat it any longer. I'm going to turn off our induction cooktop, and I'm going to take our spatula and I'm just going to make sure that the chocolate is evenly distributed into each one of these little cells. Because this is square, we have corners, and because we want our presentation perfect, we don't want to hand out chocolate bars that are missing the corners. If that happens, quite honestly, it's not really a big deal. You can just take the chocolate and remelt it and try it again. It's really not a problem to remelt your chocolate. Now what I'm going to do is just give it a little shake and make sure that all of our air bubbles are out, because you don't want air bubbles in your chocolate. It's not really going to affect the taste of it. It's still going to be delicious chocolate. But before this chocolate sets, we are going to add our own special touch. Now, on an earlier show, I made some candied walnuts, and I'm going to sprinkle some of those candied walnuts on top of a few of these. You really don't need a lot because these are not the biggest candy bars in the world. These are just souvenir candy bars. Just enough to give a person a taste of chocolate. Now I also have some walnuts that I did not candy in case you have a guest who wants just the plain nut with some chocolate, which is actually delicious as well. And we're just going to drop those on top so that they get a delicious piece of naturally grown walnut, and that they don't have to worry about the extra candy. You know, you do have a lot of candy on here anyway. Now the next thing I'm going to add are some raisins. Raisins and chocolate make a delicious combination. I think I might add a couple of nuts on that one as well. So you have kind of like a raisin nut, and I'm just going to break a couple of them up. And we are good to go. And I'm going to put these in the cooler.
Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Please, Mom, please.
No, we're having dinner soon.
Please.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Hi, welcome back. Now, our chocolate candy bars have been hardening in the cooler. Now, if you like, you can leave them out and they will harden also, but it's going to take a little bit more time. So I'm taking these out of the cooler and I'm going to pop them out of the molds. And as you see, it's not that hard because the silicone, you can bend it and it's flexible and you can push it out. And so that was our first candy bar. So I'm just going to unmold the other ones. Isn't that beautiful? Nice and shiny. When you see a shine on the chocolate like that, that means that it was at the proper temperature and that you did everything the right way. And that's why it's so easy to melt your chocolate on a double boiler. You're at the perfect temperature and your chocolate is going to look beautiful. Now, one little tip I wanted to tell you, sometimes when the chocolate comes out of the mold, they have this little edge that's a little bit odd. So basically, all you have to do is just break that off. Not a big deal. You can use a little knife and slice it off, whichever you choose. It's a lot quicker when you use your hand, and it will just break off evenly. Okay, so now I'm going to show you just how to bag these up. It's not really that difficult. If you go to your local craft store, they actually have clear plastic bags of various sizes to handle what you need and what you need it for. These bags are perfect for our candy bars. Now, one of the things that you can actually do is cut some ribbon. So if you're using these for a bridal shower, you can buy ribbon that matches your wedding party, and that will actually add to the effect. So I'm just going to bag these up right now. Okay, so now all of our chocolate bars have been wrapped. And one of the great things about wrapping them this way is that on the blank side, you can actually put a label on here that signifies what the occasion is and what the date. You can put a photograph, you can put a place card, you can put a business card. But these are tightly wrapped, they're sanitary, they're safe, and they're perfect for handing out. And they're also perfect for putting in a gift basket such as this. These are great souvenirs to hand out to your friends, to your family, and most of all, to yourself. Thank you for joining me. This is Tish Tansil on URBANesque Living. Hi, I'm Chef Tish Tansil, the host of URBANesque Living. Join me Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. and Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. on Comcast TV-68. I look forward to seeing you.